Good morning, Senators. For the record, I am Representative John Hunt from Ringe. So this bill is a very simple bill. We just added into two different statutes, one dealing with wine manufacturers, the other with beverage manufacturers, and we're allowing them to do the same thing. We allow this common language in terms of the ability in terms of manufacturing. The issue has always been that way back when we had the concept of the three-tier, which every once in a while someone will drag that out, is that a beverage manufacturer or a wine manufacturer could only be just that. And obviously in this more modern age, especially with micro brewers and micro manufacturers, micro wineries, that they need to be able to do more than that. And that's why we historically both the House and the Senate have agreed that it's high time that I haven't said we need to repeal the three-tier, but if some people keep taunting on us with this, we might have to just repeal it, so we wouldn't have to hear that subject anymore. But the reality is we're at a place now where we definitely want to allow these small manufacturers to be able to get some source of income that includes being an on-premise licensee.
Thank you, Representative Hunt. Seeing any questions? No, you are all set. Go forth and have a good day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mike Apollo. Good morning, Mr. Apollo.
Good morning, Senators.
Good morning.
I'm Mike Apollo. I own Apollo Vineyards in Derry, New Hampshire. And I rise in support of this because we are pretty much landlocked where we're at. We're a small winery which is what was a center of a big farm, which is now subdivision. And so we're landlocked to put a commercial kitchen in where we're at. We'd like to move on to another space, but right now the law doesn't allow that. So to expand my business, I need to move somewhere else and find another space. The workaround to this is make another winery, pay $100 to the state and fake it. I don't want to fake it. I want the law to represent what we're actually planning to do there.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Nope, seems clear. Do you have any questions, Anna? No, we appreciate you coming in today. Sorry it was such a brief talk.
Oh, that's great.
Keep making jobs.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you. Does anyone else wish to testify on 1076? Seeing none, the hearing is over. Sorry. You have a good-looking twin brother who's just here.
I always like it when it's House Commerce Day here. They can keep an eye on everything.
Commerce is back in session. We're going to hear 1358. Representative Hunt is here to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Hunt, representing Cheshire 14. I wrote the wrong number on the other one. Okay. This is we had contract brewers, and then there was this concept of tenor brewers, and there's it's just all this is just kind of a little smudgy and how we handle everything. End of the day, the three-tier concept was also protectionist from in-state, that it then couldn't be out of state. You know. So in this case, the storyline, and I have to say, people say, oh, you shouldn't do legislation for one person, but it isn't one person. It's just the one happens to be the first person who tells us about this, but it always snowballs after we pass it. In this case, we have someone who's in Maine. And he has a recipe, and he wants to produce a product here in New Hampshire, and so we're going to allow him to do that. And we did decide that the better part of it was set to sort out this tenant and contract brewing, so that this bill does combine it all into one. So it's one-stop shopping to understand the two different models. in terms of that. But I guess the original example Gary was back when Somebody Knows was building its big facility. It really had this idea that they were going to be the bottler for all these microbrewers, and that was where we started out with contract brewing. And then obviously nobody wants bottles anymore; everybody wants cans. And so that model probably wasn't the best for them. But in the end of the day, the legislature, I think, is our wisdom is to allow all these different opportunities to occur in the state.
Thank you, Representative Hunt. Seeing no questions, have a good day. Does anyone else wish to testify in 1358? Seeing none? He's doing something, he said.
He said you made him sit. And I said, I sat closer to him than you did.
You work out more.
Okay. So she'll let me speak first. Yeah. This clock is wrong, evidently. We'll have to ask the chair of the historical committee about why that clock is wrong. I'll speak to Terry Path about that.
All set, Aaron? Thank you. Senate Congress is back in session. We're hearing HB 279. The Honorable John Hunt is before us. Go ahead.
Good morning, welcome again. For the record, I'm Representative John Hunt from Ridge. All right, so you might notice by the bill number, this bill was left over from the previous year. The committee, as some of you might know, we do everything by subcommittee. And we spend all of this, had a couple of subcommittee sessions on this bill. It was kind of interesting in terms of, and I would say it was bipartisan in terms of where the issues were, where things were falling down. I would say we did have one Democrat who was very adamant that he did not want to see extreme penalties. And so knowing full well that, we're dealing with someone who dies, that, you should be throwing the book at the violators. So what we did is you could call it somewhat sausage. But we were taking advantage of the fact that the department was already revisiting penalties in terms of their rulemaking. So it was a good opportunity to really sit back and take testimony and through the rules process and come up with a cleaner way to do this. I would say fundamentally, the issue for the department right from the get-go has always been that is training. That the server needs the training. And so in some states, they require training. We in New Hampshire have never required training, and simply because it's an enforceability issue in terms of training. And what that we came up here, and I would have to say the chief and I had a fair amount of phone calls, and we've been processing this, that we were going to try to create a carrot to make it incentivize the license holder, the restaurant, to get that training for all their employees. And that's the way this bill is written in terms of the stages and of the penalties. It's designed to be a carrot, not so much the stick. And then when it came to the stick, what the ultimate fines were, again, those numbers had been reduced from the original bill that we had was 15,000, and you can see it's now down to 7,500. So again, this was a highly processed bill, and in terms of getting all the members of the committee feeling comfortable that this would be the best way going forward.
Very good. Thank you, Representative. Seeing no questions, have a great day.
Thank you.
Representative Mooney. Good morning, ma'am. How you doing today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I'm well. And good morning to senators on the committee. For the record, I'm State Representative Maureen Mooney. I represent Hillsborough County District 12, which is the entirety of the town of Merrimack. I'm here in support of House Bill 279. I am its prime sponsor. The title is relative to increasing the penalty for on-premises licensees over-serving alcohol. We refer to it as the Elizabeth Croak Law. I have emailed all of you my testimony as well as an attachment, a link to the WMUR story that was featured, as well as 2 letters in support by Governor Sununu. I've also distributed it to each of you and provided a copy to your clerk. House Bill 279 was introduced on behalf of the Croak family of Merrimack, who are present here today. Tragically, Elizabeth Croak of Merrimack lost her beautiful and full life at the age of 20 to an overserved and intoxicated driver in April of the year 2021. By means of background, and I come to you with the full support of the New Hampshire House, and I'll tell you why. This bill was recommended ought to pass with amendment on a bipartisan unanimous vote, 19-0 out of the House Commerce Committee, then went through the full House on a voice vote, then was referred to House Criminal Justice Committee, came out with an 18-0 recommendation, and for a second time, passed through the full House on the consent calendar with a voice vote. So I can say that I and Representative Hunt come to you with the full support of the New Hampshire House. This bill, as amended, does the following. Number one, currently the maximum fine for a licensee that overserves is $2,500 max. This bill would increase the maximum fine to $7,500 for, quote, serving an individual who is visibly intoxicated or who a reasonable and prudent person would know is intoxicated, and such intoxicated person directly causes the serious bodily injury or death of a person or persons. Just a reminder, that's current law. My bill deals with penalties only, not process. Number two, currently, the license suspension period is up to 10 days. This bill would increase the suspension period up to 30 days. I'm very grateful that Representative Hunt is here and gave you the background as to the levels that the House Commerce Committee created in the bill in order to incentivize training that's provided by the Liquor Commission online, but not to mandate it. Those tiers, I believe Representative Hunt covered pretty well, are in section 2 at the bottom of my testimony there. Thirdly, this bill also requires public notification stating the reason for the suspension. The required publication would read, quote, liquor license suspended by the New Hampshire Liquor Commission for overserving of alcohol in accordance with RSA 179:5. Governor Sununu has submitted 2 letters of support for this bill, and the bill was featured on WMUR last year. And again, I can't emphasize enough the support behind the New Hampshire House for this bill. So thank you for your attention to this matter, and of course, your service to our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Go ahead, Senator Ennis.
Yeah, just very quickly, thank you for being here today. So as I'm reading this and listening, this is a pretty modest increase in penalties, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
David Croaky. Morning. Sorry to see you here under these circumstances. If you could introduce yourself, press the red button on the mic first. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Croak from Merrimack, New Hampshire, and Elizabeth Croak is my daughter. I'd like to introduce my wife, Lynn. We speak in favor of House Bill 279. On April 15, 2021, my only daughter, Elizabeth, was killed by a drunk driver traveling in the northbound on the southbound side of the Everett Turnpike. She was the youngest of 4 children with 3 older brothers, James, Matthew, and Nathan. My daughter loved life. Elizabeth was a confident, mature 20-year-old woman with a larger-than-life personality that spread love and joy to everyone around her. Elizabeth was a graduate of Bishop Girton High School, graduating with high honors with many scholastic accomplishments. She was also involved in numerous club activities as well as played on the VG girls varsity basketball team. At the time of her death, she was a Dean's List student at UMass Amherst, studying kinesiology with an interest in the medical field. On Wednesday, April 14th, 2021, between the times of 6 and 6:30 p.m., a local Wyndham restaurant welcomed 6 to 8 young patrons. They proceeded to order multiple bottles of discounted wine. Bottles were placed on tables, and it was reported that the group were pouring their own glasses of wine with no supervision. Based on his blood alcohol level at the time of his death, a toxicologist estimated that he had likely consumed 1 bottle of Joshua Cabernet at the restaurant. At approximately 9:07, the group arrived at another well-known bar and grill located in Wyndham, New Hampshire. They were all regulars at this bar. The defendant was known by the establishment as a regular. The bartender that night had served him before. On this night, the bartender served the defendant 3 mixed tall drinks. The 3 mixed drinks consisted of vodka and soda, vodka with Red Bull, and Captain Morgan and Coke. He also consumed a green tea shot of vodka, all within a 90-minute period. The human body metabolizes on average a standard drink per hour or 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits per hour. The bartender that evening mixed a total of 6 ounces of 80 proof liquor plus 1 ounce of liquor that made up the green tea shot, or a total of 7 ounces of liquor in a 90-minute time frame. The bartender on duty knew she had already served the driver 3 mixed tall drinks in less than 90 minutes, yet she still served him the green tea shot, which consisted of a 1/2 ounce of Jameson Irish whiskey and 1/2 ounce of peach schnapps. At 11:44 p.m., New Hampshire State Police received a "be on the lookout" for the drunk driver's vehicle and was described as a hazardous operator traveling on I-93 in Hooksett. Roughly 15 minutes later, he would pass through the Bedford tolls and proceed to turn his car around, so he ended up traveling north in the southbound lane, narrowly missing head-on collision with a woman before hitting my daughter Elizabeth head-on at 80 miles an hour at marker 16.6. My daughter Elizabeth died instantly, her car fully engulfed in fire. At 2:30 in the morning, 2 New Hampshire State troopers stood at our doorstep and rang our doorbell while we slept. At that moment, our lives changed forever. We had lost our only daughter to an avoidable situation because of alcohol. Toxicology reported the defendant indicated blood alcohol concentration of 0.224, or almost 3 times the legal limit. Aggravating factors: failure to train employees in liquor education classes, failure to take advantage of classes offered by New Hampshire Liquor Commission, failure to monitor the amount of alcohol served to a patron, negligent service of alcoholic beverages pursuant to RSA 507-5:4, serving a defendant 4 drinks in less than 90 minutes. New Hampshire Liquor Commission penalty was a $2,500 fine and a loss of license for 10 days. On November 21st, 2021, the bar and grill response to license suspension was, we will be on holiday November 22nd to December 1st, reopening on December 2nd with regular business hours. Our hardworking staff has been at 7 days a week all summer long and is looking forward to this time. We hope you understand. See you upon reopening. Thank you for your support and happy holidays to you and yours. They showed no remorse. The bartender fled town and she now lives in New York. They turned a family tragedy into a time of employee celebration. My daughter Elizabeth's life was special. My daughter Elizabeth's life mattered. She had her whole life ahead of her. A bright light who always thought of others gone forever. Only memories remain. In closing, I have forgiven the person who took my daughter Elizabeth's life. His parents, too, lost their only son, will have to live with the fact that their son took an innocent life. No, it is not okay to drink and drive. It is everyone's responsibility to make sure our roads are safe. Bars and restaurants have a duty to make sure all their employees receive ongoing training in all aspects of serving alcohol. It is the responsibility of the New Hampshire Liquor Commission that training programs provide necessary information to educate bartenders and servers. If training is a part of this bill, it is imperative that information provided to servers and bartenders is thorough and relevant with checks and balances in place. It is a privilege to hold a New Hampshire liquor license. No patron should be allowed to leave an establishment when he is known to have consumed that much alcohol that fast or when he shows signs of impairment. Please support HB 279. In memory of my daughter, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I have 3 daughters. I don't know how it would feel, so I feel bad for you. Yes, Senator Rashad.
Thank you for being here today. I know it's difficult, and there are no words to tell you how very sorry I am. There's no greater loss than that of a child. I'm really sorry that you've had to go through this.
Thank you.
Again, thank you both for coming today. We appreciate it. Kimberly Kirkland. Morning, Mrs. Kirkland.
Good morning, members of the committee. Thank you for taking the time. I'll just be brief. For the record, my name is Kimberly Kirkland, and I represented David and Lynn Croak in a lawsuit against the 2 establishments that overserved her, the driver who hit and killed Elizabeth Croak. I'm here in support of the bill. I just want to point out one issue that was raised on the House side, and I believe maybe in Senate Judiciary as well, which is that in paragraph B under Roman numeral 1, there is a provision for the fine for a second offense. And that language, and this was amended from the original bill that was presented in the House, provides for a suspension of a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 30 days. And I would just point out that under the current regulatory scheme, for a second offense within 7 years of a bar having overserved someone who then got into an accident causing serious bodily injury or death, the penalty for a second offense is 30 days. So in fact, the amendment that came through the House Commerce Committee lessens the penalty for the second offense. Obviously, it's within the discretion of the commission, but there was an expressed concern in the Senate Judiciary Committee about the fact that this actually rolls back the penalty for a second offense, and I can't really imagine what the rationale for that is. The incentives that were discussed earlier for training are there in the bill, would be there for first offense, second offense. So I don't know why it would serve the interests of the policy objectives here to roll back the potential penalty for a second offense.
Thank you very much. And you're on, are you in the amendment you're reading now or the original?
I'm looking at the amendment in
Okay.
paragraph B.
Yeah, 1B. For
Yeah.
the second offense within 7 years of the first offense?
Correct.
13, okay.
Yes, and I would think you could strike the language after a license suspension, you could strike to of 30 days, and it would be consistent with current law.
I gotcha. I understand. Thank you very much for your testimony. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 279? Yes, sir. Come on up. Oh, no, I thought you were getting up. Okay. Yes, you did. Thank you, Senator Shanley. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, colleagues. I am Shannon Chandley. I represent District 11 in the State Senate, which includes the towns of Amherst, Merrimack, Milford, and Wilton. And I come to this table to express my incredibly strong support for this piece of legislation and how important I do think it is. While we do not currently require training, and this bill does not contemplate this requirement, I do ask everyone to consider the fact that we allow folks to serve something that so many of us will enjoy, but that can have dire consequences without training. I think it's very important that we include the incentive, and I think we may want to certainly address some of the issues with penalty. I think this law would be very, very important. Upon passage, this will memorialize Elizabeth Croke. But more importantly, perhaps, her memory, the hard work of her parents, and the actions of this body will undoubtedly save lives in the future. And I just wanted to take a moment to express my
Thank you very
support.
much, Senator.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 279? Come on up, sir. Mr. Apollo, how you doing?
So I'd like to raise support for this as well. It's a regular occurrence that we have busloads of people come to our place. And if you read my negative Google reviews, you'll find out that I often refuse them service. And so we pay for it that way, but we don't pay for it in the loss of life. I've often had to turn away people who sat down, seemed fine, and then started acting out, cut them off. And they had a designated driver, but I wasn't ready to serve any of them. So this is, another group, and you can read the Google reviews on this, my responses. One group was very intoxicated. Several people couldn't stand up. One wet himself on the bus. Some of them brought their seltzer cans, which didn't come from the previous winery. So we refused service to the whole bunch of them. And they subsequently got on the bus, went to a winery 7 miles from mine, and were served. So people should be smarter than this. It's not about the money. It's about people's lives. And these penalties, while shutting down the whole liquor license for a business could be devastating. My staff knows that if they overserve someone, I'm going to walk them out the door.
Thanks for doing business that way. Does anyone else wish to testify? Seeing none, thank you. Can't beat that one. We're all set, Aaron. Representative Horgan. Senate Commerce is back in session. We're going to hear HB 1198, the Honorable Timothy Horgan. Good morning, Mr. Horgan.
Thank you, and I apologize for, this is kind of a jarring transition because I'm here talking about how to get the State Liquor Commission to sell more product, but which is, and I certainly think the previous bill is excellent, and that's like I don't condone anybody drinking and driving. So currently, the State Liquor Commission Canada does keep stores open on, quote, main routes where traffic is heavy on any Sunday or legal holiday with the 3 exceptions of Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And Thanksgiving and Christmas are both clearly defined in the existing law, and most retail stores as it is stay closed in those 2 days. There was a bit of a fad for staying open on Thanksgiving, but that's kind of passed. So it's mostly about Easter's a little different. First of all, technically, it's not a legal holiday. It moves around from year to year, and I could go on. It's a very complicated basically the idea is that it's the first Sunday after the Paschal full moon, which is the first moon after the spring equinox, but different religious groups have different ways of calculating when that full moon is and when the equinox is and so forth. So that's why the Orthodox Christian churches usually celebrate on a different day. In fact, this year, I believe they're celebrating on May 5th. And then in the Jewish faith, Passover, which is the same holiday as Christmas, is celebrated on a different date this year on April 23rd. And then most of us celebrate the Western Easter, which, as you know, is March 31st. And about the Paschal full moon, you'll not be surprised to learn that that's exactly 2 weeks before the solar eclipse, which many of us enjoyed, as well as the record-setting traffic jam on the way home. But that was the new moon after that full moon. So so it's pretty straightforward. It's merely enabling legislation. It just gives them another option. They're free to keep the stores closed instead. The full-time employees are already guaranteed 1.5 times their pay on if they work on a Sunday or a holiday, and all the other work rules would still apply. And I suppose this could be another. They have they're a unionized business, and they have a strong union, and they have a robust working relationship between management and labor. So that may be something that they have to work out, but I don't think that's a problem. The Liquor Commission says that gross sales on a Sunday are usually about $1 million. Labor costs, the additional labor costs on that Sunday are about $53,000, basically the cost of having employees, staffing the checkout lanes, so people can actually pay for their product. So at sales, they would definitely anticipate if they chose to stay open that they would make more money if they're open on that Sunday. About half of other retailers are open on Easter Sunday and about half aren't. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, I'm not sure how many people would even want to show up, although there are caterers who are catering that day. There are families who are traveling, to family gatherings, want to pick up some spirits or wine, preferably New Hampshire wine, but wine from any places, but we sell wine from all over the world at our state liquor stores. So that's basically just it. So we can serve the public better and hopefully, frankly, make a little more money in the process. So thank you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative.
Yeah.
See
All right, thank you.
You have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is he here?
Yeah.
Want to come up? Thanks. I didn't see him in the back.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioner. How you doing today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable committee members. Mark Armaganian, Chief of Enforcement for the Liquor Commission. We're here to answer any questions you may have as it relates to each one of these bills.
Go ahead, Senator Shardy.
I would like to know your position on the different bills.
Thank you for the question, Senator. Anytime that the ability is given to the Liquor Commission to make business decisions as this, it's opening up a holiday, but at the same time, it's allowing the commission to do a market analysis on whether or not it's worth having the employees, the profits of it are worth having the employees in their positions as opposed to having them on a day off. So we're very neutral on this issue, but at the same time, it does give us some latitude.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming up.
If I may.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator.
Good morning. Just a quick question. All right, so let's say we take two very important religious holidays and arguably a third. Say you can open. It would seem to me that under present conditions, people expect you're not going to be open those days. So they're buying the day before, a couple days before in anticipation. So rather than sell more, are you simply going to move some of it to those days and really not sell that much more overall?
Thank you for your question, Senator. It's hard for me to answer that right now because as the three of you know, four of you know, I come from the Division of Enforcement and Licensing. So marketing isn't in our repertoire, but at the same time, our division looks at, as you do, as from the view of being a realist and what possibly would be the positive out of it as opposed to the negative. And the negative is not making any profit because that is one of the missions of the commission is to increase profitability.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming up today.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to testify on 1198? Seeing none, thank you. I agree with you. Come on up, Keith. Oh, I'm sorry. Senate Commerce is back in session. We're going to hear HB 1540, and the sponsor is Jared Sullivan. Good morning, Mr. Sullivan. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is my first time speaking for the Commerce Committee in front of the Senate. I'm on the Commerce Committee in the House, so we've been through this before. But basically, this is a pretty simple bill. There hasn't really been a lot of opposition from the Liquor Commission or anybody in the industry. But this basically came out of discussion with some constituents of mine, and we learned that, like, through the process of them opening up a new restaurant, we kind of dived into some of the alcohol regulations with regards to food, and it became clear to us that the requirements for food in order to be eligible to sell alcohol seemed a little bit onerous. And so by that I mean the way it was defined. And so this just simply changes the definition. So currently, if you look at the current statute, the way the law is written, it says food, for the purpose of qualifying for alcohol sales, food is defined as something that is not easily eaten while standing and generally requires tableware. And so that can be interpreted a lot of different ways, but most people, I think, if you're just a business owner looking, which is what happened with these constituents I'm telling you about, when they looked at that, they were like, well, I guess pizza doesn't count, burritos, hamburgers, all these things, tacos, whatever, which is what they sell as tacos. And so that won't count as food. And obviously they opened it up and they're able to work with the Liquor Commission. They're great, but I just kind of thought that it's a problem to have that language so firmly in our statute. And so this just I worked with the commission and just changed it so that it says a full course meal means a diversified selection of food. And you can see what is struck out. And then they can work with the Liquor Commission to make sure they're not just selling like a bag of Cheez-Its and saying, this is our food, go sell a bar. I understand the intent of the law. I think that this was more than likely, I think it probably wasn't causing a ton of problems, but I can imagine there might be some business or potential business owner somewhere that probably looked at the statute and says, oh, my business would not be allowed here. And it maybe stopped it from ever even getting a chance to have that conversation with the Liquor Commission to maybe get an exception or to get a whatever variance. So I just thought let's just fix it. And so that was my goal here. So nothing super controversial, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much for your testimony. Senator Ennis.
Yeah, just maybe as much a comment as a question. Having been in the hospitality business and, struggling through the process a little bit, we ended up with beer and wine. We didn't get the full license because getting to a full kitchen with a knife and fork sort of requirement is tough.
Yeah.
So this is simply saying you could serve someone great appetizers, small plates, that kind of thing that you could eat with your hands and be okay for a liquor license.
Right. Yeah, and it wouldn't cause any of that confusion. I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot of that regulation which this doesn't touch, which I've kind of started looking at, and it's my first term here, so I'm just starting to peel back the onion to some of the stuff. But I agree with you. Some of that stuff is kind of burdensome.
Yeah, the commission was great to work with.
Yeah, no, they are great, and I've been working with them on this too. So that's why I don't think.
Yeah, they're constrained by what we put into law. So
Right.
Thanks for bringing this forward.
Yeah.
Thanks for your testimony. Seeing no other questions, you have a great day.
Thank you.
Keith, did you want to testify? Okay. Great, thank you. Anyone else in the room wish to testify? Seeing none, that'll end the hearing. Yep. Yep, make the motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.